Hi, and welcome to Gentle Yoga. My name is Amanda, and we have a lovely practice today based on compassion and kindness, both to ourselves and to others. So as we work through the poses, make sure that you're honoring your own body, however it feels today. If anything feels painful or otherwise uncomfortable, please pull back, regroup, and come back into the practice when you're ready. You might want to do a warm-up. You might want to check out my warm-up video, for instance. And we'll begin starting in a standing position. And you may want to have a mat, 2 blocks or books, a blanket of some kind, and maybe even a chair or a wall to give you a little bit of extra support along the way. Coming into our standing position, we're going to take a mountain pose. So setting up from the feet all the way up the body. So intentionally placing the feet on the floor, maybe lifting the toes and lowering them. Bending the knees ever so slightly, engaging your thighs, engaging the core by drawing the navel towards the spine, opening the heart, rolling the shoulders up, back and around and down. Palms may face forward if that feels okay, or it could be by your sides or somewhere on your body. Neck is long, crown of the head reaches for the sky, and eyes can be open or closed. Start by taking a few natural breaths. And as you're doing this breathing, start to make your inhales a bit deeper. So inhaling and exhaling, letting the air release out of your body. And again, so inhaling, it almost feels like your belly expands, and then exhaling, let the belly soften. You could even place one hand on your belly. And a couple more deep breaths. This is belly breathing or diaphragmatic breathing. And then releasing everything, maybe giving it a shake. And as you're ready, joining me in a seated position down on your mat. You may wish to have something underneath your hips, especially if you have a tight back or tight hips. Perhaps a blanket or a block or a bolster. You also might want to have blocks underneath your legs. Sometimes that can feel very nice. All of these supports are meant to give us a slightly more easeful way of sitting in this easy pose, Sukhasana. It's not always the easiest pose for everyone. So feet could be further apart or closer to your body. And hands on the knees or in your lap. And take one more breath here, inhaling and exhaling. Now reaching your fingertips out to the sides, maybe lightly grazing the mat. On the inhale, one arm comes up. On the exhale, stretch to one side. And then inhale, switch arms. Exhale, stretch. And again, repeat. And inhale and stretch, and then coming back to center. Hands can come back to the knees for a seated cat-cow. So inhale, gaze up, arch the back, and exhale, chin towards chest, round the spine. These can be very slow movements. We're repeating back and forth. We're just warming up here. So you could make these very small movements. You could go slower or faster. Really whatever feels right to you at this moment. And then coming back to neutral spine, keeping the hands on the knees, starting to do a body rotation. So on the inhale, chest comes forward and then to the side, exhale, round to the back, and then we do this again. So we're making a rotation with our torso around our hips or our sits bones, however you'd like to envision it. And these, again, could be smaller movements. We're starting to warm up the spine and some of the muscles and ligaments around the core. Coming one more time, and then find a place to pause and then go in the other direction. So inhale to the front, exhale round, inhale to the front, exhale round. If the breathing doesn't pair up nicely from your perspective with the movement, then Just breathe at your own pace. And then coming around one more time and coming back to center. So now you could place any props to the side and join me in tabletop position, which is your hands and your knees are on the floor or on the mat. I like to use a blanket to cushion my knees, so you'll often see me doing that. It's a nice kind of support. So in tabletop position, we check that our shoulder is above the wrist, our hip is above the knee. The shins are flat on the mat and all 10 toenails are on the mat, or you could even tuck your toes under, whichever you prefer. So we'll take some traditional cat-cow movements. So on the inhale, gazing up, drop the belly, lift the hips. And on the exhale, chin towards chest, navel towards spine, round over. And again, inhale, gazing up, drop the belly, exhale, round. These are absolutely your decision of how much or little to make the movement. It's really any amount. And then when you're ready, you could start moving your shoulders. We're just going to add some extra movements here that feel good. So whatever you like, it could be swaying the hips from side to side. You could be gazing back at one hip and then gazing back at the other hip. Perhaps you're gently warming up your wrist, lightly touching it down onto the mat in different directions, not putting a lot of pressure on it. Maybe taking an extra round, maybe tucking your toes underneath of you and sitting back a little bit to get the stretch in the arch of the foot. Maybe taking a rotation from tabletop position, one direction and then the other direction. Maybe stretching one leg out behind you, rocking a couple of times, and then the same with the other leg. And when you're ready, meeting back in tabletop position, we'll be heading down onto our front bodies on the mat for some cobra back bends. So hands can come out, one hand print if you like, lowering yourself down onto the mat, maybe readjusting a little bit to get comfortable. Checking that shoulders are above the hands, palms are against the mat, elbows are deeply bent and hugging your rib cage. So feel those elbows really hugging your rib cage. Tailbone is slightly tucked under, legs are zipped together. All 10 toenails are on the mat, and we'll keep our toenails touching the mat throughout this pose. We're not lifting our feet off the mat for this pose. So when you're ready, on the inhale, roll the shoulders up, back, and down. Lift the head, neck, and top of shoulders. And then exhale, lower. And again, so inhale, lift up. This is very light here. You could take your hands up if you wished. And then exhale, lower. And one more time. Inhale, lift. And exhale, lower. And if you wish, you could push back into a more full cobra if you want to on the next inhale. Pressing into the hands, keeping the elbows bent any amount. And then exhale, lower. And again, inhale, lift. Maybe looking from one side, center, and looking to the other side, center, and then lowering down. When you're ready, pushing back and meeting in tabletop position. From here, we'll take a downward facing dog. So again, hands can come slightly forward, tucking the toes, lifting the knees, shooting your hips up to the sky. Feet are about hips width distance apart. Knees are bent any amount. Maybe bending one knee more deeply and then the other. Palms are pressing into the mat. Feel the length from the wrist all the way up the arms, all the way out the sits bones. On the inhale, looking forward and starting to walk with baby steps towards the top of your mat, arriving in a forward fold. And you may wish to have your blocks nearby, any height. So feet are firmly resting in the mat, knees are bent any amount. Top of your body is resting forward, releasing, surrendering. And maybe your hands rest on the blocks, on the mat, on your legs, wherever you like. See if you can surrender here and release. And breathe. Maybe nod yes. Maybe grasp opposite elbows with your hands and then sway from side to side. Coming back to center, our next pose is a half lift. So on the inhale, maybe holding onto your blocks, lifting your torso away from your legs, away from your thighs. Knees can be bent any amount or could be straightened. Your torso is parallel to the floor to the extent you can get it there. Gazing towards the floor, feeling a long straight back, your shoulder blades reaching towards your back pockets. And one more breath here. And on the exhale, take the fold, forward fold. And on the inhale, tuck in the tailbone and slowly rising up to stand. Take a pause. So how does that feel for you? Okay, so our next poses will be a lunge position. So starting at the top of your mat, you'll bring one leg, your right leg, back behind you. Lowering that down. Again, I'm using the blanket for support. You're now in a low lunge position. Knee is above the ankle. Hips are facing forward, so towards the top of your mat. Tailbone is just slightly tucked under. And then choosing your arm position. So hands at hips. Hands could be heart center. Hands could be above you, just to show you what that looks like, or cactus arms. Or any variation that you choose. Maybe you can shift your weight a little bit forward into the front leg. Maybe you can look up. Or maybe you gaze forward. Chest is open, shoulders away from the ears. Take one more breath here. And exhale. Lowering the arms, perhaps bringing your blocks a little bit closer to you. Shifting your weight back into the kneeling leg. Straightening the other leg in the front. Flexing the foot at the ankle, toe pointing up. On the inhale, get taller, long torso. On the exhale, hinge at the hips, leaning forward, stopping when you feel the hamstring stretch behind that front leg. Trying to keep the spine nice and long. So not rounding over, but keeping a nice straight spine. And one more breath here. And exhale. And then placing any props to the side and meeting back in tabletop position. Now we'll bring our right foot forward. So we'll do the other side. We're coming into our lunge position, tucking our tailbone, hips facing forward, hands at hips, or heart center, or above you, or cactus arms. So many options. It can be different from what you did on the first side. So can you shift a little bit forward, shifting your weight into the front leg, perhaps looking above you, or maybe just gazing forward, that's good too. And one more breath here. And on the exhale, lowering the arms, perhaps bringing your blocks a little closer, shifting the weight into the back leg, straightening the front leg, flexing at the ankle, toes pointing up. On the inhale, get taller. On the exhale, hinge at the hip to lean forward. Again, keeping that straight, long back, looking forward. Maybe your gaze is down a few feet ahead of you, stopping when you feel your hamstring stretch, and then just pausing here. Taking at least one deep breath. Inhaling, exhaling. And then placing any props to the side. Bringing the front foot down to the mat, tucking the back toes underneath of you. Now you're in a lunge. And then in any way that makes sense for you, bringing the back foot up to meet the front, tucking the tailbone and slowly rolling up to stand. So now we have some sun salutations. This is a version of sun salutations that do not require you to go down into plank or chaturanga and then to have to get up from there. So we'll be doing the sun salutations from a standing position, and you may want to have your blocks nearby. So coming to the front of your mat, I'll give you the side view in case that's helpful. Bringing your hands to heart center and taking one breath in stillness. Inhale and exhale. On the next inhale, arms reach up, and exhale, swan dive over, maybe reaching for your blocks. Inhale, half lift, blocks or no blocks, and exhale, take the fold. Inhale, twist the torso to one side, maybe raising the other arm to the hip or above you, maybe using the block, and exhale, lower down. Inhale, twist to the other side, maybe raising the arm, exhale, lower. And inhale, root down to rise up, maybe looking up, and exhale, arms to sides. So that was one sun salutation, and we'll do two more, a little bit quicker pace. So on the inhale, arms up, and exhale, swan dive. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, take the fold. Inhale, twist, one arm up. Exhale, lower. Inhale, twist, other side. Exhale, lower. And inhale, root down through the feet to rise up. And exhale, arms to sides. Last time. Inhale, arms up. And exhale, take the fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, lower. Inhale, twist one side. Exhale, lower. Inhale, twist other side. And exhale, lower. And inhale, root down through the feet to rise up. And exhale, arms to sides. Ah, well done. So how does that make your body feel? Any different from when we first started the practice? Our next poses will be our warrior series, so I'm going to remove my blanket from the mat. And these will be standing poses, so if you would like to have a chair nearby to help you with balance, or if you're near a wall and you could just put your hand out at any point, you're more than welcome to do that. So coming to the front of your mat, the feet start about hips width distance from each other. So there's about that much space in between your feet. We're going to head into a high lunge position. So you'll bring your right foot back behind you, keeping the toes on the floor, but lifting the back heel. Some people get confused with the warrior one foot position, but this is not that. This is a high lunge. So all 10 toenails face the same direction. The heel is lifted and the front foot is in a deep lunge. And you've kept that space in between your feet. The feet are not lined up behind each other. You have some space there, and that will help you with balance. You could also hold on to something or a wall for balance. So tucking the tailbone slightly, choosing your arm position, whatever you like, cactus arms, for instance, above you, gazing forward, breathing here. So perhaps you bend your back leg and then straighten it. Perhaps you gaze up or not. Gazing forward is great too. Neck is long, shoulders away from the ears. One more breath here. Then lowering the arms, pivoting the back heel down onto the mat, we're heading into a warrior two position. So the front foot faces forward, the back foot faces out to the side, not at a jaunty angle, but rather at a 90-degree angle. So your feet are perpendicular to each other, okay? And they are actually lined up one behind the other. And this doesn't have to be a deep distance between the feet. You could be closer with your feet. You could be a little further. Experiment with different spaces and see what feels right for you today. So the front knee is deeply bent, knee is above the ankle, raising the arms out to a T shape, and then looking forward over the front arm. If you wish, you could rotate at the shoulders so palms face up, and then just flip the palms, and that can be a really nice way to get a good arm position for warrior two. Look down and make sure you see your front big toe. If you can't see it, then just gently suggest that your hip open a little bit further so that you can see it. And you're breathing here. Beautiful. So let's give ourselves some hugs today. So we'll flow. So inhale, give yourself a hug with straight legs. Exhale back to warrior two, bent knee in the front. Inhale, hug. And exhale, warrior two. One more time. Inhale, hug. That should feel good. And exhale, warrior two. Now flip the front palm so it faces up, and then raise that arm up to the sky, maybe looking up with your gaze, feeling that stretch on the side of your body in the front, back arm dangling. This is our peaceful warrior. One more breath here. And exhale. Then coming back to warrior two, just pausing here for one more breath. Inhale and exhale. Now bringing the back foot up to meet the front, or bringing the front toes forward and heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, so your feet are together. Wonderful. Now we'll do the other side. You can come to the front of your mat again. I'm going to just do it from the other end of my mat so I can show it to you. So starting at the front of your mat, feet are hips width distance apart. This time you'll bring your left leg back behind you. You could inch it there. You could hold on to something for balance, keeping distance in between the feet. Toe is on the floor, but the back heel is lifted, okay? So hips are reaching forward or looking forward. Chest is open. Tailbone is slightly tipped under. And then choose your arm position. It can be different than you've done before. It can be the same, whatever you like. Neck is long. Maybe you take your back knee, bend it, and then straighten it. Maybe you look up. Or maybe you gaze forward. One more breath here. And then on the exhale, arms come down, back heel pivots down to the mat. So front toes face forward, back toes face out to the side, perpendicular feet. Front knee is still deeply bent. Floating the arms up to a T shape, you guessed it, we're headed into warrior two. So gazing out over the front fingers, maybe rotating at the shoulders and then just flipping the palms. And settling into this warrior two, take a breath here. Can you soften your front thigh? And it's time for hugs. So on the inhale, straight legs, give yourself a hug. On the exhale, warrior two. On the inhale, hug. Exhale, warrior two. And one more time. Inhale, hug. Make this as flowy as you like. Exhale, warrior two. Now flipping the front palm, raising it up to the sky, maybe looking up, feeling that side stretch all the way down the body. One more breath here. And exhale, coming back to warrior two. And one last pause in our beautiful warrior two, gazing out over your fingers. Inhaling and exhaling. Then you can bring the back foot up to meet the front, or turn the front toes inward and heel toe back to the center. Well done. Taking just a moment to think about how that felt in your body, whether you noticed anything when we were doing the pose or now that feels a little bit different to you than when we first started. So now our poses are going to be on the floor for the remainder of the practice. If you'd like to join me in a seated position to start, we're actually going to roll down onto our backs for a bridge pose. So the soles of the feet are on the floor, knees are deeply bent, and your fingertips almost could touch your heels. They don't have to touch, but you're sort of reaching for your heels. So obviously in a hip bridge, we will be lifting our hips up, but let's just think about what parts of our bodies are connecting into the mat and will be supporting us in this hip bridge. So our feet, the soles of our feet will be pressing into the floor, especially the heels. Our hands, the palms, and the backs of our arms and our shoulder blades will also be pressing into the mat. So just experiment with what does that feel like, not even lifting your hips yet, just feeling like what is it like to press the soles of your feet and the backs of your arms and the shoulder blades into the mat, and then release. So our neck and our head will not be doing any work in this pose. If you find any discomfort in your neck, please stop what you're doing, maybe pull your knees into your chest and relax until the next pose. So when you're ready, on the inhale, we'll lift our hips, pressing the soles of the feet, the backs of the arms, the shoulder blades into the mat. And then exhale, lower. And let's do that again. So inhale, press up. Energy down through the heels. And then exhale, lower. And one more time, we'll press up and we'll stay there. And use your breath. So take 3 deep breaths in this position with your hips in alignment with your legs. This lovely bridge. One more breath. And then exhale, lowering down to the ground. Now we have a bound angle pose. We can stay on our backs, so the soles of the feet come together, the knees splay out to the side, and you could use a block or two to support your legs if that feels right for you today. Your feet can be further away from you or closer in. You could rotate the shoulders up, back, and around and down, maybe palms facing up, arms a little bit away from the body. If this is comfortable for you, take a couple of breaths here. And exhale. Giving our hips a nice stretch and the insides of our thighs. And then when you're ready, bringing your soles of the feet back to the ground, knees are bent, placing any props to the side. We'll set up for happy baby. So before we do anything else, let's make sure our back is flat on the ground. So raising the hips just ever so slightly and then sending the hips away from you, just about a ½ inch. And maybe now you can feel your lower back connecting into the mat. Then we bring our knees in closer to us. Always take a little sway here if you like. And if you'd like to stay here, feel free. You could do knee circles or rocking back and forth or bringing one knee in and out. If you'd like to take happy baby, you could start by raising the feet up a little closer to the sky. Ankles can be flexed. So it's really the soles of your feet that are facing the ceiling. If you wish, you could hold on to your legs anywhere. You could also hold on to the outsides of your feet with your hand, or you could take the two first fingers of each hand and wrap them around your first toe and hold on to your feet in that way. You could rock back and forth. You could also press with your heels a little further away. See what that feels like. It's an experiment. Maybe even rock. And don't forget to breathe, of course. And then whenever you're ready, bringing the feet back in and stretching the legs long along the mat. We have a final twist before our resting pose. So when you're ready, bringing one knee in towards your chest and then gently guiding the knee across your body, seeing how that feels. Maybe reaching your opposite arm out to the other side and maybe even looking towards that side. See if both shoulders are on the mat. They don't have to be, it's just a check. See where they are. And breathe here. Then when you're ready, bringing that knee back to center. Straightening the leg long on the mat, bringing the other knee in, crossing the body, and raising the arm out to the side, maybe looking in that direction. And again, checking where the shoulders have landed. Feeling that twist. And then bringing the knee back into the center and letting the leg come long. So now we're setting up for Shavasana, which is our final pose. It's a resting pose. You're welcome and invited and encouraged to use any supports that you like. I often like to have a blanket underneath of my knees. That can be nice if you have tight backs. You could also have a blanket underneath of your head or over you to warm you, or you could put your clothes on, your socks, for instance, to stay warm. We'll be taking this Shavasana pose for a minute or two, and as we do so, I invite you to relax the physical body. Be kind to yourself. So take whatever supports are needed or desired here. Allowing your feet to be wide and maybe flop out to the sides. Feeling the back body melting into the mat. So the backs of the heels, the backs of your legs, the backs of your hips, the mid-back, your shoulder blades, perhaps rotating the shoulders up, back, and around. Maybe your palms face up, or maybe they don't. They could be somewhere on your body or just relaxing at the sides. Chest is open, neck is long, chin is just tucked a ½ inch down, and feeling the heaviness of the back of your head connecting into the mat. And so we take this resting pose to invite our physical bodies to relax after all of the poses that we've just done, all of the movement, all of the energy flow. And here we can also be kind to ourselves, not judging, not criticizing. And in fact, we are inviting our minds to join us in this final relaxation pose of our practice. This is Shavasana. And you're welcome to stay in this pose longer if you have the time and the inclination. If it's time for you to bring this part of your practice to a close, perhaps start by wiggling your fingers, wiggling your toes. Taking one deep breath here. Perhaps raising your arms above you along the mat and taking a full body stretch from fingertips down to your toes. And then bringing your soles of the feet to the floor with bent knees. When you're ready, rolling onto your right side, moving very slowly here, we're in no hurry. Cradling your head with your hand, your arm, a blanket, keeping the knees bent. Pausing. Exhaling. And when you're ready, taking the other hand, pressing it into the mat, sitting up in any position. Perhaps bringing your hands to heart center, perhaps bowing your head to seal in your practice. Taking one more breath together, so inhaling and exhaling. Thanking yourself for being here, for taking the time to focus on compassion and kindness to yourself and to others. And I too thank you for being here. I hope you take some of your practice along with you into your day, and I hope to see you next time on the mat.